in case you've missed previous talks on EconoChat Let's Talk Business with Mr. Daniel Steinman, you can of course go to economist.com. Yes, or you can go to the YouTube channel Economist NAM.
Yes.
To get more on our previous talks, but today we are talking about a financial intelligence amendment bill, but also touched on financial action task force, which is where we are right now with this talk, is in connection with greylisting. Now, Mr. Daniel Steinman, I want you to explain the greylisting part. Give us more detail.
Okay, Elsevier, it's actually quite involved. There are two levels of classification by the Financial Action Task Force to designate any jurisdiction anywhere in the world in terms of their compliance with the three main goals. Drug trafficking and the laundering of money, financing of terrorism, proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. Remember, that's what we're talking about. That is the main issue. That's the reason for the existence of the Financial Action Task Force. It's their job to fight against those three happenings, events. Now, what happened in South Africa is that they were given a 24-month window, it's called, to amend certain of their acts which provided loopholes for financial criminals to operate in. Now in South Africa it's a big issue because it's a big economy. So when the criminal element in the financial services sector, when they're looking for conduits, in other words, channels that they can launder their drug money. They're not looking for a place where they can wash $1 billion or $2 billion or $5 billion or $10 billion. They're looking for places where they can wash $100 billion, not million, billion. 200 billion, 300 billion. And the moment you start moving those amounts around, it starts attracting attention. You cannot move $100 billion US dollars without a lot of people noticing it in a lot of places. So in that sense, Namibia is basically disqualified as a potential conduit, as a potential candidate to help to aid the laundering of money, because the type of sums that they are interested in is simply too big for us. You will flood the whole economy, and you cannot hide it. It's too big, and we are too small.
And Mr. Daniel Steinman would pick that up as an economist.
But in South Africa, the economy is big enough that you can launder very substantial amounts without attracting undue attention. This is the whole thing. So South Africa is a serious case. They were put on review. They failed to amend all the pieces of legislation that they had to. It was a handful, I think about 13 or 14 acts that had to be amended in that 2-year window. And as I said, on the 24th of February this year, they were greylisted. So what does it mean? It means that you are included in this list of countries that do not fully comply with the prescriptions of the Financial Action Task Force. And it doesn't mean that you are necessarily a country that support the laundering of money, but because of certain deficiencies in your legal framework, you enable the criminal element to use you as a country to launder money. So that's why they was greylisted. Now, the moment you greylisted, every transaction of an international nature, every transaction where money flows into your jurisdiction or where it flows out is scrutinized by the Financial Action Task Force. So first of all, it places an administrative burden on the Customs and Excise Department. of South Africa.
Yeah,
I'm still there, not here yet.
In Namibia.
Yeah. And secondly, because of this additional administrative burden, it places an additional financial burden on that jurisdiction. In this case, again, South Africa. So what it does, Elsaby, it makes it more expensive to trade. Because the moment you're talking about trade, you're talking about international transactions. Stuff coming into Southern Africa all the time, and what we produce or what we mine being exported from Southern Africa all the time. So you are making it more expensive for your trading partners. Everybody now, you have to pay lawyers, and you have to pay this, and you have to pay that, which would not have been the case if you were not greylisted. If it was assumed, or if you had a certain status that all the transactions originating from your jurisdiction are deemed to be above board. In other words, not criminal. So this is what happened then. And you can, if you just think back, the whole talk of the last 5, 6, 7 years with SADC, the Southern African Developed Community, and with the African Free Trade Area, is that we want to make it easier to trade, not more difficult or more expensive. And this is exactly what greylisting does. It works against the African Union or the aspirations of Africa to create a common continental free trade area. It works against the aspirations of the Southern African Development Community, SADC, to liberate trade, for the free flow of trade. And we see very much huge benefits if we can liberate trade.
Oh yes.
Now South Africa gets greylisted. All of a sudden, the biggest player in the whole Southern Africa has got a tag around his neck, and that tag says, "Watch out, don't do business." And this is what's now going on in Namibia. Because we are now in the middle part of our 24-month window for review. And there are 9 acts that we need to amend before February 2024. So in little less than a year from now, if we don't get those 9 amendment acts or amendment bills through Parliament, we will also be greylisted in February next year. And then the impact on us, because we're so much smaller, will be much bigger than what it is on South Africa. So this is the reason for this recent activity. You see all these bills, and they all have to go through to prevent greylisting.